Welcome, guys, to How the Frack We Got Here, a show that takes the news and events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan, and on this show, we simply are all about the facts. There are plenty of news stations out there that simply want to do anything short but inform you. Here at How the Frack We Got Here, that's all we believe in. We go up to the left, we go up to the right, we go up to the middle of independence. We go after all sides because there's more than one side of a story to everything, and you need to know it all in order to actually formulate your own opinion. And that's what we try to do here at How the Frack We Got Here. Thanks for listening, and hold on, it's gonna be fun.
All right, guys. Today's date, January 19th, 2022, and this is How the Frack We Got Here. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan. On How the Frack We Got Here, we do take the events of the week and try to make sense of it all. Before we get started, guys, to let you guys know that we do try to be a family-friendly podcast some of the time, and actually, we do try to watch our language. Sometimes words do fly. Also, at the same time, there may be things that might be shown, especially in this podcast, that might be a little bit too graphic for younger viewers. So viewer discretion is advised. Aside from that, welcome. Ladies and gentlemen, first and foremost, I do need to go ahead and say this. I have to show this first because what I'm about to show you, in my opinion, is probably the greatest 37 seconds of a political ad you will ever see. And if I was in the state of Louisiana, I'd vote for this guy.
Every 37 seconds, someone is arrested for possession of marijuana. Since 2010, state and local police have arrested an estimated 7.3 million Americans for violating marijuana laws, over half of all drug arrests. Black people are 4 times more likely to be arrested for marijuana laws than white people. States waste $3.7 billion enforcing marijuana laws every year. Most of the people police are arresting aren't dealers, but rather people with small amounts of pot, just like me. I'm Gary Chambers, and I'm running for the U.S. Senate. And I approve this message.
Y'all, I'm not even in the state of Louisiana, and I'm already, I wish I could vote for this. Now, granted, we are past MLK, Dr. Reverend Martin Luther King's holiday, and of course, you never thought in a million years you would ever see that type of candidacy. And this actually happened. The guy's name is actually Gary Chambers. Gary Chambers is the individual that you saw in the 37-second commercial that we just posted that is literally smoking marijuana, but he's doing this not only as the fact that he does enjoy marijuana, but he explains that America's had this country with the war on drugs, which we all know the war on drugs was pretty much BS. Now, the reason why he brings that up is the same thing that's been said by many marijuana and law advocates, that, the whole idea of just the systemic problems that happen with African Americans being charged more, being incarcerated more for pot-related incidents than any other race out there. And the simple fact of the matter is, you have we're up to 13 states, if memory serves me right, 13 states that have made marijuana legal. And I have been saying this, and I will not stop saying this. This is how you want to know how you basically get elected. Now, let's just forget the Senate. Let's just say if you want to be president. Let's say if you want to make marijuana legal. Do you not know how many voters will literally pay attention to that? I mean, we've seen it in Colorado. We've seen it in New York. We've never seen where marijuana was legalized that the economy took a downturn. And now, of all things, it's getting to the point to where all 50 states are going to wind up eventually being legalized, as they should be. I mean, I don't smoke marijuana. I mean, I may know a couple of friends out there that may enjoy the plant and things of that nature, but I've also sat there and said that not only for its therapeutic properties, there have been many other applications from the marijuana plant that can be used in various mechanical and medical applications, especially with CBD oil, which actually does help in reducing seizures and other nerve pains and things of that nature, in which we were too busy letting these companies prescribe Percocets and oxycodone and OxyContin, which they claim were safe. Let's be honest, they're dangerous narcotics. And of course, if you've seen the show Dope Sick on Hulu, pretty much gets the whole point of that. But again, going back to Mr. Chambers, to me, that is the greatest 37 seconds of a candidate outside of President Obama that I've seen. And if you were in Louisiana, and if you're in Louisiana and you're watching this right now, I would definitely be voting for him in the Senate, just because the simple fact of the matter is, I love the guy. literally stand on the fact that, yes, I think it's high time, forgive the pun, that we need to turn the page on the so-called, I mean, and again, marijuana is just a plant. It's not, to me, I could argue all the time, marijuana is a plant, it's not a drug. It's only considered a drug because it was basically used for currency and the fact that minorities made money off of for years, yet crack cocaine and methamphetamines are still allowed to be out there. Just saying. But moving right along, guys, I did want to cover this next story. Again, this is the part where I said it's going to be a little bit disgusting just because you've probably seen this story. And again, this is probably going to upset some religious folks. But yeah, we need to talk about this. Viewer discretion is advised.
Was apologizing after he was seen wiping spit on his brother's face during his sermon on Sunday. This video has gone viral nationwide. News Tally's James King brings us that apology and why some, including the pastor, are saying it wasn't a smart move.
A Tulsa pastor gone viral overnight. Pastor Mike Todd of Transformation Church made some people in the crowd and online uneasy during his demonstration. In his sermon, he wiped spit onto the face of his brother to show that receiving God's vision can sometimes be nasty.
I watched it back and it was disgusting. Like, that was gross. I want to validate everybody's feelings. That was a distraction to what I was really trying to do.
We have a lot of bacteria in our mouth. That's all normal. But add on viral particles and other things that you can spread. Intention may be in the right place, but that's definitely not the safest thing to do.
Todd now apologizing, saying that he may have crossed the line in his demonstration. So I asked my father, who's been preaching for nearly 40 years, the importance of illustrations in sermons.
We oftentimes take theological liberties to try to allow our congregants to experience the sermon as well as see it and hear it. And we have to do it with exegetical integrity to the text.
And though it hasn't been well received everywhere, it's been trending nationwide over the past 24 hours.
We want people to see Jesus. We want people to feel loved. We want people who are desperate to be able to find hope. And I'm passionate about that, so much so that I try to do extreme things to help people get it.
Jesus said that the gospel must be preached around the world. And it has certainly been seen around the world, this incident. And so I think we need to give Pastor Todd some grace.
James King.
I'll be honest with you guys. If I was his brother, your brother deserves a shot. I'm just going to be honest with you. Your brother that you put your spit on, your brother that allowed you to do this, I'm sorry. He owes you one. You gotta let him, you gotta step in, he gotta belt you one. Because in a pandemic where the Decepticon is spreading right now, Omicron is spreading. You as a pastor in your church wants to apparently go a little bit too far with your message, and even more so, your brother? Why can't y'all be like the rest of these preachers that have multi-million-dollar homes and just take your jacket and be hailed? Or, do the, what's always the hand one? The hand one when they go straight to the hand, I hail you. And, they always fall backwards or what's that one dude, that one pastor that takes his coat and flacks it around like he's trying to fan a smoke show. Can't think of his name to say in my life. But granted, all fanatics and theatrics. Yes, it is. But again, this goes to this whole point of why. I'm like, I'm not saying, look, just take it how you will, whether you believe or don't believe, whether wherever you're religious or lack thereof, or that, however you feel in life. I don't care if you're trying to explain a sentence, and I don't care if you're just trying to describe a scene. You don't need to spit at all. You don't. If you can't, my thing is, if you can't explain yourself through words, and like any good storyteller, bring us in on the story and make us feel like we're a part of it, cool. But if you got to use spit to prove a point, bruh, like I said, there's just certain things, and I would be remiss to sit there and say this church will probably forgive him. He might be getting his own communion bread and juice for a little while, but I'm like, look, we all, and I'm not defending him. This was by far a dumb ass decision. You know, and obviously you could tell he didn't run it by anybody. He didn't run it by no one. And you can tell he didn't run it by no one because he thought it was a good idea. Then he goes back and says, ooh, it was disgusting. Yeah, you did it. You somewhere in your mind thought this was a great idea to, tell your brother, hey, now for this example, I'm going to spit in my hand and I'm going to double spit just to make sure I got the effect. And then I'm going to rub it across your face because I'm trying to prove that God's love is through spit. I'm trying to figure out how he convinced his brother to go along with this. That's my thing. It's one thing, to me, it's one thing for the pastor to spit, but it's a whole nother thing to have somebody sitting there right next to him going, are you about to rub what? I know you ain't about to, yeah, you doing it. You doing it. Yeah, you doing it. I'm sorry, but we supposed, in my mind, I just hear, try Jesus, not me. That's all I'd be hearing in the back of my head. Because, like I said, if I was his brother, he owes you. You owe him one. That's a you finna get knocked out moment, because there is no amount of scripture that you're trying to teach in that nature that involves spit. But again, gross, ugly, and again, your brother deserves to literally punch you. He does. Because I don't think he was informed until the last minute, but that's just me. But moving right along, guys, like I said, we talked about MLK. Of course, you would be remiss if you do not know the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King, because just like him and many other civil rights leaders during the time of the civil rights movement, that again, this man did actually preached nonviolence, that he did preach about really trying to bring together people, not just black people, white people, under a movement, to which, like I said before, there have been many documentaries, many movies made about this man, and that he should always be recognized for his place in the civil rights movement, along with many, many others. That being said, of course, how does this? Actually, what do you say, Vaughn? Hey, Vaughn, you spit on me in the name of Jesus. I hope he knows your name when I send you to see him. Right. Hey, I fully agree with that one, but. That also being said, guys, again, MLK, of course, we just had that holiday this Monday. And of course, this does also ring true, because usually on MLK holiday, every Republican and Democrat and independent and politician starts posting Martin Luther King quotes. And I always find it interesting that the people who are literally against everything that Martin Luther King stood for has the audacity to basically go on social media and post quotes. Even more so that Martin Luther King's family is doing the right thing and taking this moment to remind the country that, yes, we have a voting right problem that needs to be fixed.
Holiday, his son and namesake, marching in Washington, pushing for the very issue his father championed for years, demanding lawmakers deliver on Democrats' voting rights legislation.
Democracy stands on the brink of serious trouble.
In King's hometown of Atlanta, at Ebenezer Baptist Church, where he once held the pulpit, the issue is taking center stage.
We must mobilize everyone we know in this fight to save our democracy.
Pass federal voting rights.
Ebenezer's pastor and Georgia Senator Raphael Warnock literally using his pulpit to apply pressure to his Senate colleagues.
We will be free someday. We will get voting rights.
But in Washington, the two bills are all but dead, with every Republican opposed, calling the legislation a partisan attempt to have the federal government take over elections.
This is not about a fair election. This is about gaming the system and putting your thumb on the scale for Democrats to try to keep control of the Congress.
And two moderate Democrats opposing a change to historic Senate rules that would allow Democrats to pass the bills on their own. Today, President Biden said passing the legislation is the only way to truly honor King's legacy.
It's not just enough to praise him. We must commit to his unfinished work. to deliver jobs and justice, to protect the sacred right to vote.
But now the president is under fire for once again failing to convince his own party to pass a key part of his agenda. And some allies are fed up. In a scathing New York Times op-ed, Bishop Reginald Jackson of Georgia writes, the White House slept on voting rights, and now our very democracy is at risk. And the Senate is expected to begin debate tomorrow with votes on the rule change and the bills likely later this week, but neither is.
Okay, so again, I don't blame what that man said at the end. I don't blame what he said. That the White House did sleep on voting rights. And like I say, guys, if you've been following, if you have been literally and figuratively following this podcast, you guys have noticed that I've been saying this since last year, where the Democrats and their simple majority, keep in mind, you had a small majority. I mean, you had the House, you barely had the Senate, with Kamala Harris being with Madam Vice President Kamala Harris being the tie vote. Now, what does that basically mean? I sat there and said the moment that you saw two heads pop up, basically two roadblocks, two Christmas gifts. You guys have heard me say this a lot, especially last year, that Manchin, first it was I said Manchin is the Christmas gift Republicans never asked for, but they're thankful for now. And now it's grown two heads, cinema. And again, I have pointed this out, that if the Democrats don't get any racks up on the wins, especially come November with the midterms, and I have sat there and said it more, I will say it again, that in the midterms, Democrats will have a more difficult time convincing their voter base, convincing minorities, convincing women, convincing the people that literally got them the Senate and the White House. They're going to have a harder time. Because if you really think about it, what has under the Biden administration now coming up on 1 year accomplished so far? It's a little hard to digest that the only things they got passed was a COVID-19 hate bill that was basically designed to help Asian Americans. They passed an infrastructure bill, which is basically to help roads and bridges and other structures along America, which again is fine. But what else is out there? The Build Back Better plan was actually supposed to be helping Americans. That actually included prescription drugs marked down. That it wasn't exactly the thing we want for prescription drugs, but again, it's a start. You had paid maternity leave, something that other countries have, but yet the U.S. does not. Figure that one out. And on top of that, the many other things that they were going to introduce tax breaks. They were going to reverse Trump's tax cuts, which again, think about this. Trump's tax cuts are still in play. So with all that being said, it doesn't look like there's a lot of W's in the Democratic column. But to me, the albatross of it all was that they slept on the fact of the Voting Rights Act and the John Lewis Act. They slept on those because, again, they are both progressive and that they should be put in. You know why Manchin doesn't like this? And I always point this out. Manchin always says he's against this. I'm like, what are you against? This is everything, especially the Voting Rights Act, which is everything Americans wanted. Automatic voter registration, making elections a federal holiday, making it easier to vote by expanding mail-in voting and removing certain conditions. Especially in a pandemic where a lot of people, especially the elderly, may not want to go out to polls. They want to do mail-in voting because it's safer. And the last election proved that. But you would think for 1 second that Manchin would be on board with this. He's not. Do you want to know why he's not? Because again, Manchin is in Virginia. Manchin is in West Virginia, a state that is so red that I'm surprised it has a blue Democrat. Even more so that he has shot himself in the foot, and he's a walking conflict of interest. He is basically a Democrat posing as he is basically a Republican posing as a Democrat because he calls himself moderate Republican, moderate Democrats. Moderate Democrats are just Republican light, is really what they are. Because Manchin has not given any suggestions, but he said no. Who does that sound like to you mostly? Everybody's been given a suggestion but said no. Sounds like Republican to me. Kristen Sinema, also in Arizona. Again, a woman that has sat there and said that she will not raise taxes on corporations and on wealthy people. But once again, say no because of the deep divisions that have already happened in America and that it may cause irreversible damage. She also voted no. Voted no on the Voting Rights Act and the John Lewis Act. 2 Democrats are basically the derailment of the current Congress that we currently have. And for me, I have been saying this, that Democrats waited too long to address voting rights because now we're 8 months away from midterms. Republicans will have an easier time convincing idiots to vote for them again than Democrats will convincing conscious voters to give them another shot when they couldn't even get together to pass a single bill. It's almost a story it's almost a story that writes itself, because I have been saying this from Jump Street. Now, if I was in Arizona and I was in West Virginia, if you have other people that are running for Senate, especially for Democrats, push them. Because I've always said it best, whether you're Democrat or Republican, if you're not doing the job for your state and benefiting them properly, but you are still getting government checks, you are still getting government benefits, you, my friend, should be removed. I also sat there and said that just similar to the presidency, a state senator and a state representative should only be serving 2 consecutive terms. They serve no more than 2 consecutive terms in a row. It's like once you serve 2 terms, you're out. Wait out a year and then come back. Wait out to the next midterm election. You can come back and run again. But it's like I said before, with this whole revolving door, it's almost like once you get in the Senate or once you get in the House of Representatives, and again, I understand it's not all Democrats. Hard to say about Republicans because every time a Republican speaks out, they're out the door the next day. But it's amazing. In the House, you have progressive Democrats that are annoyed, and in the Senate, you have moderate Democrats. All but 2 are not on board. This is your administration, Mr. President Biden, and non-existent Madam Vice President Kamala Harris. This is your party. Somebody, when it comes down to it, again, the midterms are going to be a harder time for you guys to hold on, because all the Republicans have to do is disrupt one thing, the Senate or the House. If they can disrupt one thing, their goal is achieved. If they get both, it's a bonus. And nothing is more scary than having Mitch McConnell back as Senate Majority Leader, which means that Republicans, say what you want about Republicans, but here's one thing they do very well. They toe the party line. All of them vote on the same bills. That's how Trump's tax cuts got passed. They very rarely do any of them become defiant and vote against the party. Because once you do, it's a pack mentality. They don't keep you there. Don't believe me? Ask Liz Cheney. And she did it for the right reasons. But moving right along, guys, like I said before, again, I sat there and said that talking about the debate, which again, they want to get Democrats on record, which I thought was a waste of time. We already know who's not voting. The question should be is, why is more pressure not being put on these 2 Democratic senators?
Capitol Hill tonight, the Democratic leader vowing to hold a vote so that every senator will be on record on this. Rachel Scott on the Hill.
Tonight, the Senate, for the first time, moving ahead with a debate on voting rights, even though the bill appears doomed to fail.
Senate Democrats we are going to fight the fight.
It comes after 19 states imposed new restrictions, making it harder to vote. The vast majority pushed by Republican state legislatures. The effects already plain to see. In Texas today, the county clerk in the state capital, Austin, announcing she had to reject 27% of mail-in ballot applications on technicalities.
Your next door neighbor who just turned 65 and who's voting for the first time because they're afraid of COVID is not a fraudulent voter.
On Capitol Hill, Democrats accuse Republicans of stifling democracy.
We cannot sit back and let one political party continue to unravel the threads of our democracy, one voter suppression bill at a time.
The voting rights bill would, among other things, make Election Day a federal holiday and guarantee all voters can request a mail-in ballot. It would also empower the Justice Department to police potential voter discrimination by states. But Republicans are opposed, and 2 key Democratic senators, Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin, refuse to change the Senate rules to let Democrats pass the bill with a simple majority vote.
I think if you have a situation we have right now, where you have the executive branch of government and you have Congress, the House and the Senate, they're all the same. And there's no check and balance because basically you just sweep right through. And the same thing could happen if Republicans had everything.
And just moments ago, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer told Democrats behind closed doors that they will push forward with a vote to try to change the Senate rules to push through voting rights legislation. But that vote is still expected to fail.
And it did. It did fail because we knew all Republicans would vote against it, but we also knew Kristen Sinema and Joe Manchin, which again, it's amazing. Joe Manchin has this fantasy in his head that, oh, well, if we remove the filibuster now, that Republicans can turn around and use it against us. Name a situation where it's happened, because with the filibuster in place, Joe, did you forget that Republicans still did what they wanted? You do remember on the Trump administration that Republicans had the Senate and they had the presidency and they still passed a majority of the bills they wanted to get through. They still ramrodded Supreme Court justice picks through, despite Democrats owning the House. So this crazy roughshod fantasy, Joe, that you think is going to happen, dude, they don't need the filibuster to do it. They had the Senate and the presidency and still did what they wanted to do. So again, this is why I said this before. If you're in West Virginia or you're in Arizona and there's someone else that is running against Manchin and Sinema, now would be the good time to pick them up, because again, we should not be electing those that don't represent the will of the people. I also sat there and said, we also actually have a clause in where if they're not actually meeting the needs of the people, that they can be recalled when an election is done. Like I said, there needs to be a point to where, it shouldn't just be a one and done situation with Congress that once you're elected, you're in until the next election. No, you need to serve the will of the people. And I'm sorry, I'm not seeing that from Manchin and Sinema. They just seem to be serving the people that actually fill up their corporate donorships. Take it how you will. But, the whole thing about the vote, I just felt like it was a waste of time, just because what actually happens when you get them on the record? Because honestly, nothing changes. You understand that only two people voted no, while an entire party voted no. And then what do you have to say? That when it comes down to it, come midterms, it's like what? Unless you're going to go ahead and groom people to run in opposition against them, what was the point? That was my whole thing. It's like, you can't sit there and say, well, bring it to vote because we don't know what's going to happen. Yeah, you do. You needed two people to budget reconciliation to pass this vote. Two people didn't vote. Two people voted no. They already said they were going to vote no, even though after they visited Biden multiple times and still remained defiant. Here's how you get those people to understand. Here's how people get to understand that they are fighting the will of people. Vote them out. And that can only be done by the people of their states, West Virginia and Arizona. And trust me, it's going to be, and especially as we are 8 months away from the midterms, I would not be surprised if those things change. I would not be surprised. I'll even go one further. I won't be surprised if Manchin or Sinema's tune changes when they realize that they may potentially lose their seats in the Senate. And trust me, the Republicans are planning for one or two things. It's like chess. They can go for the House. They can go for the Senate. It's a both if it's a bonus. And do not think that in 1 second that people who vote conservative will have this amnesia-like thing. Well, the Democrats did us all wrong. Forgetting the fact that you were under 4 years of Republican hell. But I digress. But again, if you're probably wondering in most areas what's going on with grocery stores looking like Mad Max, well, there's a reason.
And the empty shelves Americans are finding at the grocery store tonight, from COVID to the weather, one expert calling it the perfect storm of reasons behind what we're seeing. Here's ABC's Victor Okenda.
Tonight, the new round of grocery shortages, sending some stores across the country scrambling to restock shelves.
The shelves are pretty bare.
There's no meat, no toilet paper. It's crazy.
Experts blaming issues including Omicron-related staffing shortages for stores and suppliers, supply chain backlogs due to the pandemic, more people eating at home, and soaring freight costs from a lack of truckers and recent extreme weather.
All of these factors happening all at once is a perfect storm. Shortages and headaches for the consumer that's going out there.
I went in there to get like mayonnaise, and I've been actually trying to get one jar for the past month, and it hasn't been there. Every time I come, it's never there.
The Consumer Brands Association finding American grocery stores typically have 7 to 10% of their items out of stock at any given time, Right now, that number is at about 15% for food and beverage products.
Smaller may be better when it comes to getting the product that you need. The smaller grocery stores are very nimble. They get more deliveries at a more frequent rate.
And Aldi, a major supermarket chain, apologized to customers this week because several items were not in stock. The company is blaming shipping delays. They say that they're working around the clock to fix it.
Yeah, they're saying they're working around the clock to fix it, but here's the one thing you notice. You do understand that, stores like Aldi, Kroger's, Walmart, Publix, Albertsons, depending on wherever location you're at, are they experiencing a shortage? Are they experiencing a shortage in profits? Absolutely not. Like I said before, it's amazing how, Americans are seeing everything go up but the paycheck in prices, and yet corporations are recording record profits in a pandemic year. It's not because of the fact of, shipping and logistics, because let's be honest, because you didn't pay truckers. You're not paying truckers enough to be on the road, especially this time transporting materials from one state to another. You're not paying enough for workers to come in and literally keep the stock shelved and unloading goods and things of that nature. So here's the problem with capitalism. The way it is right now, when you expose the cracks, it breaks. You see that the system is literally one paycheck away from breaking down. And the simple fact of the matter is, we've been told all this time, we talk about raising the minimum wage up to a certain amount. And you know what people say? Well, find better jobs. Hence why a lot of people are kind of mad if they're at their favorite fast food restaurant that's backed up 6 cars and wondering why it's taking so long. Because those very same people that you sat there and told to find better jobs, well, they did. And you're still complaining. But again, I digress. But moving right along, guys. If you're not aware of this, because again, this seems to be going around, the @free COVID home test. If you haven't already done that, here's the website where you can find it.
A day earlier than expected, the federal government's website for free COVID tests has gone live. In a soft launch, the White House began taking orders for up to 4 tests per household.
We're very pleased with the website so far.
The website officially launches tomorrow after a year of long waits and rapid tests often nowhere to be found, despite President Biden's promise last year.
Bottom line, this winter, you'll be able to test for free in the comfort of your home and have some peace of mind.
Still today, many pharmacies and major retailers are out of stock, leaving families like the Pretty Hefferins frustrated.
Look, you're negative.
Like so many, Cons Pretty says finding rapid tests to get her kids back in school has been nearly impossible.
I felt desperate, so I posted it on Instagram, and that was the only way that we had to actually get a couple more tests. We had friends shipping us tests from Vermont overnight.
The Biden administration says tests will ship within 7 to 12 days, landing at your door at the end of this month. Best case scenario.
What would be the grade you would give the Biden administration on tests?
Right now, the grade I would give is a C.
Epidemiologist Abigail Echohawk is the executive vice president of the Seattle Indian Health Board.
When they're focused simply on using the internet, we're going to see that those in rural America, those on native reservations, are not going to get the same access to information. And that will continue to drive the inequity of the impact of COVID-19.
The White House has promised 500 million free tests via the website and says it'll add a phone number to order soon.
We're just really trying to catch up.
In Seattle, rapid test manufacturer InBios wants to produce 5 to 10 million tests per week to help meet demand.
The biggest challenge in terms of the home tests in particular is labor shortage as well as paper products. So we have the test, but we can't ship it if we don't have the product insert, the instructions for use, as well as the box to put it in.
For parents like Preti, only a negative test can get the kids back in the classroom.
What's your message to families who feel so frustrated they haven't been able to get tests sooner?
Yeah, we see that there's been enormous demand, and we are trying to keep up with that demand.
As families hope, the White House will deliver. Jolene Kent.
Now, honestly, guys, this is kind of where I was sitting there. I would usually sit there and say, well, this is because we've gotten to this point because not everybody followed instructions. I have to call it what it is. There are some of us out there that are unvaccinated, and of course, it is your choice. It is your right. You shouldn't be judged or condemned for it. That being said, you are, because of your actions and the consequences are being felt by everybody. That we have to do this route, that we have to, establish safety guidelines, that we have to turn around and attempt to try to get people as testing tools as much as possible, just because for most places, they require a negative test. I just know that, of course, me and my girlfriend, we had went to a Brian McKnight concert here in Tennessee, and of course, you had to have a negative COVID test outside of 48 hours, or you had to have your vaccination card to show that you've been fully vaccinated, and you still had to wear a mask going into the concert. So again, this is the world we live in now. Hey, Kayla, I have a problem with offering only 4 tests. That doesn't help large households. I understand. Because the system is only, I think they only limit it to 4 because they think that the average American household is 4 people. I don't know why they think, for lack of better words, the average American household is 2 parents and 2 kids. I don't know. I'm like, I don't know why they believe that's a thing, but I guess that's what they've been sold on average by the census report. That's just a guess. But yes, it should be more. I mean, honestly, it should be kind of extended out to 6. But, just like with you, trying to get COVID tests, if you've been everywhere, and I do mean everywhere, as soon as they get them in, they're right back out the door. Most folks would usually go to ERs or ERs or hospitals just to get a COVID test done there. And then, of course, let's not forget the COVID stations that you still have, depending on where you are in the world, especially in the U.S., that it still takes a while to get testing, especially with rapid testing being so much preferred because rapid testing is done under an hour. That being said, yeah, it's the perfect storm. It's the perfect storm of trying to get materials out as soon as possible. Will the issue ever be rectified? Yes, but like I've always said, with every pandemic that has ever hit the U.S., the only way all this changes is that everybody becomes vaccinated, including the kids, because kids can be vaccinated now, and boosters and things of that nature. That seems to be the only way. Because I've said it before, this is how polio was beat. This is how measles was beat. This is how smallpox, every time we've ever had an issue that has affected the population as a whole, inoculation has been the way to beat it. And yet people still want to argue. I don't know why. But move right along, guys. I did want to get these other 2 stories out before we get to our feel-good segment. This one is interesting because, again, this has no audio, but to give it context, I'll go ahead and play it. This is basically a arrest that was happening in Florida where a police sergeant decided it was a little bit too aggressive with a handicapped individual, with a person who was already handcuffed and was spraying mace at them. And you're going to see very soon one of the female officers decides to pull back the officer who was the aggressive one, which you're going to see in about the next few seconds. Which, again, I thought was crazy because you're going to see that woman go in, pull the officer back by the belt, turns around, and as you can see, grabs her by the throat. And again, that actual police sergeant is currently on administrative leave right now. While, of course, again, you can't hear any audio. Trust me, I have been trying to find audio on that this entire doggone time. I have been trying to find audio on that because I still want to know half of what he said. But again, that was the officer that's currently under administrative leave right now. Which again, it's like amazing. Which again, it goes back to tell you what I told you guys. It is amazing to me when it comes to the thin blue line, because anybody who still says thin blue line or all blue, blue lives matter, all this stuff. When the Capitol got hit back on January 6th, no one was screaming blue lives matter. I didn't see a blue lives matter. I didn't see an all lives matter. I didn't see nothing as Capitol Police testified about the white supremacist, white terrorists that came in and tried to pull a coup d'etat. I didn't see nobody, not even the police union stood up for the Capitol Police. And that alone should tell you everything you want to know. But we'll follow that story as it goes along because, again, something is bound to happen from that. Because you would think that, of course, it's one thing for the police to beat up black people. It's a whole other thing to be choking out their own. Moving right along, guys. Last story I got before we get to our feel-good segment. There might actually be some movement in these Trump lawsuits, especially with the one that the Manhattan DA is pursuing right now. Check it out.
Major escalation in the legal battle between former President Trump and New York's Attorney General. In a new court filing, Attorney General Letitia James accuses the Trump Organization of engaging in fraudulent or misleading practices. She accuses Trump's family business of repeatedly misrepresenting the value of its assets to bolster its bottom line. James is asking a court to compel Trump and other Trump family members to testify as part of a civil investigation. Trump calls the investigation a witch hunt. Time now for a look at your Wednesday weather.
So it's amazing to me that every time Trump has some, it's a witch hunt, okay? It's a witch hunt. No. Well, like I said before, I will be surprised about Trump if he somehow survives this. This guy has multiple lawsuits all coming at him. And I have been saying this, the scariest thing about Trump is that if 2024 comes around and this man still manages to come out of this unscathed, oh, he'll run for president again, and he'll get the Republican nomination by a landslide, and that's scary. But again, with the Manhattan DA looking into this because now they have Trump's tax records, and then they're looking into issues of fraud because again, Trump likes to basically, show him to basically say he's more than what he is, or might just slightly exaggerate his riches and income. Well, yeah, that's what the Manhattan DA is going after. So we're going to see what happens from that. But I just thought it was interesting because maybe finally, like most things, just like Al Capone. Al Capone has only been caught. Al Capone went down for tax evasion. He never went down for the alleged murders that was tied to him. So maybe that's how Trump goes. Maybe by tax evasion. But we'll follow that story as it goes along. But anyway, moving right along, guys, we want to go and get to our feel-good segment because usually on How the Frack We Got Here, we cover a lot of things that are doom and gloom, sometimes that just make you want to lose your faith in humanity. But hey, it's Wednesday, which means tomorrow's Friday Eve, which is Thursday. We wanted to leave you something with something positive and upbeat and just makes you feel great. And this one's kind of a history thing for me because what I'm about to play, I did not know. As much as I am a hockey fan, that I did not know this little piece of history. But I'm glad to be more empowered because I know this, and I want to share this with you guys.
History in hockey.
He was a game changer.
It was the greatest throw of my life, I believe.
Willie O'Ree became the first black player to skate in the NHL on this day 64 years ago.
At the time, I didn't realize I had broke the color barrier until I read it in the paper the next day.
Because you didn't care.
Didn't care.
O'Ree played for the Boston Bruins in what many perceived to be at the time a white man's sport.
I fought a lot when I first started. I fought not because I wanted to, but because I had to.
And Willie did it all while keeping secret the fact he couldn't see out of one eye. That would have kept him from the game he loved. Elected to the Hockey Hall of Fame, O'Ree, now 86, has worked tirelessly to make hockey a game for everyone. A mentor with the NHL's diversity program, he gives some sage advice.
If you think you can, you can. If you think you can't, you're right. And it's true.
He remains a role model to the more than 100 black players who followed him into the NHL.
Thank you for being a role model.
Thank you, Willie. Thanks, Willie.
Willie O'Ree, the youngest of 13 kids who overcame all obstacles to make it to the NHL.
Retiring Willie's jersey is really sending a message. If you come in and you make a change by just either being a woman, a trans person, a person of color in the sports where we've never seen that, that should be celebrated and remembered.
Tonight, his black and gold Bruins jersey, number 22, will be raised to the rafters. Kevin Tibbles.
Yeah, shout out to that man, especially to the fact of the matter is like he was blind in one eye and he's still able to pull this off. That is impressive. Willie O'Ree, again, his number of being retired by the Boston Bruins and also the first African-American player in the NHL. So definitely want to give that man his flowers, especially for what he's doing right now. That being said, guys, that's really going to do it for this podcast. So before I do get out of here, I do got to do some shameless plugging as I usually do. I do want to start with my buddy who first commented a little bit earlier today. I certainly appreciate that. My buddy Vaughn at Big BZA Dot. You can definitely find him either on Westwood on Facebook, Big BZA on socials, where you can see his podcast, Smoking Trailer Sundays, every Sunday from 6:30 to 9 p.m., in which he goes over movies, video games, television reviews, and things that he finds interesting and therefore wants to share them with you. He also has the RAF podcast, which is like that was wrong. The RAF podcast, it's abbreviate for a reason. But it's like America's Funniest Home Videos, except done by World Star, which means only for the grown and intended, every Tuesday from 6:30 to 9 p.m. But definitely check him out, Levon Westwood on Facebook and BigVZA everywhere else. Shout out to RNG Present Geek Style for allowing me to share my podcast on their page. I certainly appreciate it, guys. They are actually guys I met last year, and hopefully we'll have them very soon on my Get Bit podcast. But they do cover all things pop cultures. There are things outside of it, and they do so with intelligent, but definitely a non-filter. But it's entertaining. It's entertaining. It's funny. It's intelligent. And again, with those guys, it's just always a good time. So definitely check them out on Facebook as well as YouTube. RNG Present Geeks Out, as you can see the YouTube page there. Now, as for me, guys, you can definitely find me at my IG handle, Blackbox447, in which, I do post movie reviews, video game reviews, updated news, sometimes gym stuff, because, I do a couple push-ups. Aside from that, like I said, some inspirational stuff and things that I just want to be able to motivate others, because that's kind of the thing for 2022, to motivate, to elevate, to basically educate, and just, spread those seeds in a helpful way, not in the biblical sense. But aside from that, like I said, the link also scrolling at the bottom, you copy and paste that into your browser, will take you to my link tree that has the YouTube and Facebook pages for all of my podcasts, How the Frack We Got Here, Get Bit, and of course, the Alphabet's podcast. So definitely check those things out, like and share and subscribe from there. As we wrap this up, guys, again, the Decepticon is real. Please, oh please, if you haven't already, get vaccinated, both shots with the booster. Please wear a mask when you go out. It's getting real out there, especially with the weather, because Mother Nature right now gives 0 Fs. She gives 0 Fs about the weather right now, especially for us being in Tennessee. We've experienced really all of them in like the last 48 hours. So again, please be careful and be safe. The last thing I'll say about the fact we got here, it's all about staying informed. We are not trying to change minds. We're not trying to persuade you. We are simply doing what the news stations will try to do, give you all the information, allow you to make up your own mind for yourself. We do a lot better in society as we're informed. We're progressive. We move forward. We try to right the wrongs of our past by making decisions now that we should have done back then. Like electing our Madam Vice President who is Black. It's only then do we learn from history, because if not, we are doomed to repeat it. Otherwise, that's how you wind up with a president like Trump and wondering how the frack we got here. Thanks for watching, guys. If you're watching some of the playback, please comment if it's live. I still want to know what you guys thought about it as far as the stories and things we've covered. And aside from that, letting me know if you liked the show or you didn't like the show. Still want to know, guys. I'm trying to make it better for you guys to enjoy as an alternative to the news. Not to change facts, but to give a perspective that you don't normally see anywhere else. That being said, guys, thank you all for watching. Have a great night. Take care of yourselves and each other, and we'll definitely get through this. Peace.